Hey YouTube, Common Collector here, and today I am bringing you a custom deck profile that I believe that I pretty much came up with this on my own. I don't think that anybody else has made a deck profile on this combination, but I am bringing you Melfi, Ojama, or Melfjama, Ojelfi, whatever you guys want to call this deck. I really don't know, but yeah, I was just sort of thinking a while ago, I wanted to do an update on my Ojamas, and I had all my Melfi cards sitting around, and then I sort of realized these are both level 2 beast decks, and I thought, why not just try to sort of put them together? And they actually do blend really, really well together. This is a really great deck just for either OTKing your opponent, or you can actually do more of a grind game and lock your opponent out of their main monster zones and even their extra monster zone, and we will get to that a little bit later on into the deck profile. But overall, this is really fun. It basically blends like the most cute of the beast archetypes and the most ugly of the beast monsters. So Melfi's came out and everyone was like super excited about how cute they are, but Ojamas have been around and they're a big fan favorite, but they are also like the fuggliest of all Yu-Gi-Oh monsters. So this is a really fun combination. And again, yeah, the Melfis just really, really actually help to sort of set up the deck. So this is a very fairly budget deck, and I will anything that is not budget I will definitely be going over later on in the video for your budget alternatives. But yeah, very much, especially in the main deck, this is a very budget friendly deck. So we're going to be going on into 3 copies of our Melfi puppy. So if you guys aren't familiar with the Melfis, what they do is that they all have the same effect to where they can special summon themselves to the field during your end phase, and then during your opponent's turn, whenever your opponent summons a monster, or if they are about to attack one of your specific Melfis, you can just bounce it back up to the hand, and then you get a bonus effect. So with your puppy, when Melfi puppy goes back to your hand, it is going to special summon a level 2 or lower beast monster from your main deck. Then you have 3 copies of your Melfi Caddy. The difference with Caddy is that it actually adds the beast monster from your deck to your hand. However, it does not have to be a level 2 or lower, so it can just be any level beast monster from your deck to your hand. Also, then you have 1 copy of Fenny. So Fenny is actually going to special summon a beast monster from your hand when this gets bounced back up. Again, no level restriction on Fenny. Then the only other one besides the dog is Pony that has a level restriction. So when Pony gets bounced back up to your hand, you can add a level 2 or lower beast monster from your graveyard to your hand. One other thing that I think I didn't really mention clearly is that with the Melfis, it doesn't have to be specifically on your opponent's turn. If they summon during your turn, like if they have an IP Masquerade or something, you can again bounce these guys back to the hand in order to gain more advantage. Then we do have the 1 copy of Melfi Rabby. I just sort of wanted to include everything in this deck, and we do play a card, a couple of cards actually, that make this card searchable and actually beneficial in the deck, hand, and graveyard. So overall, playing the 1 Rabby is actually pretty nice. So now let's get on into our Ojama engine. So of course, we're playing the 3 copies of black, yellow, and green. So the main reason why we want to be playing all 3 copies of this is for our Oja magic spell. So basically, if you end up accidentally like drawing 2 copies of like your green and you're only playing 2 copies of each in the deck, then that means that all of your copies of Oja Magic are going to be dead. So that's why we want to be playing as many copies of these cards as we can, and that is why this is actually a 50 card deck. I don't think that I've mentioned this yet, but there are so many different ways that you guys can get into your like little mini combo plays and whatnot to make sure that your the deck is running the way that it's supposed to be functioning. So actually playing this in a 50 card deck is actually really similar to how Dragon Link is being run right now. You have a handful of bricks and whatnot, and you're just sort of trying to bury them in the deck, and you're just sort of increasing all of your consistency, like all of your consistency plays as well as your extenders in order to sort of make sure that you don't see all of these cards. The one way that you can get around if you draw into a whole bunch of your Ojamas is with your Ojama Red. That's going to help you to mitigate that, like all of those bricks in your hand, because the Ojama Red, when this is normal summoned, you're able to special summon every other Ojama that's in your hand. So like, say you open up with the red and you get an Ojamagic off and you add 1 copy each of the green, yellow, and black, then that's going to allow you to get 4 monsters off on 1 normal summon, which is always amazing. We always want to be getting that off as much as possible. Then we're going on into 2 copies of Ojama Blue. Blue synergizes really well with like the Melfi Puppy in the deck, because Puppy is going to allow you to special summon from the deck, and so you can just special summon blue during the battle phase with the Puppy effect, and then that's going to allow you to, when this card gets destroyed by battle, then you're able to add 2 different Ojama cards from your deck to your hand, which is actually super nice. That's the main reason why this works so well together, is because you have your, the Puppy is now the way that blue actually becomes live, because a lot of the time if you put blue on the field, it's just going to get destroyed by a card effect. But if you use Puppy's effect in the middle of the battle phase, that's going to actually allow you to get the blue effect off. And you can actually summon blue onto the field also with like your Fenny and whatnot. So there's a lot of different ways to bring it out. Then you have 3 copies of Rescue Cat. Obviously, it's a beast deck. Then for our one-ofs, just playing 1 copy of Valeraphon. If I have basically everything that I need in my hand, like if I have like an Ojamagic and a Ojama Red in my hand, and then, I don't, like, sometimes I'll add Ojama Red or Blue to my hand with the Caddy if I get that effect off, or if I already have everything set up, then I just add the 1 copy of Valeraphon, and then it's just a nice little extender. The 1 copy of the Armed Dragon level 3 for your 1 Ojama spell, which will come up in a short while. So now we're going to move on into the spells. So we're playing, of course, 3 copies of Ojama Country. This card is just really nice for your Ojamagic to make sure that that gets off, because it is a nice, easy discard. It helps you to extend, and also you can, as long as you have an Ojama on the field, it swaps the attack and defense of all monsters on the field, which is actually super nice. That will actually come into play with our extra deck a little bit with the XZ monster, the Ronin Raccoon. So with the Ronin Raccoon, it allows you to take on the attack of an opponent's monster that's on the field. So if you take on the attack of an opponent's monster, then you're going to be able to hopefully get over something. And then even if you can't get over it with that token, you can probably get over it with something else, because everything is going to be flip-flopped, which is really, really cool. Then you have your 3 copies of the Ojamagic. I've sort of talked about this already, but basically when this card gets discarded, sent from the hand or field to the graveyard, it allows you to add all 3 of the vanilla Ojamas, 1 copy of each, but you have to have all 3 in the deck, so that's just a really important thing. One last easy way to discard that is with Ojamatch. So basically when you get Ojamatch off, it results in you, if you get both of these cards in hand, it's almost game right there. As long as you can get this off fully, it's really, really nice. So with the Ojamatch, you add an Ojama Red to hand, then the effect resolves, you get Ojamagic off, and then you get the yellow, black, and green, and also the Ojamatch is going to add that Armed Dragon level 3, and then you get to normal summon one of them. So even if you've normal summoned on this turn, then you get to normal summon again, so then you can summon off that Ojama Red, and then you get those 4 normal summons, and you can do whatever XZ or Link plays you want from there, which is really, really awesome. Then we're going on into 3 copies of Obedience School. This is one of our best starters and extenders. So you have to have no monsters on the field in order to use this, so it really is just a starter card. But you summon off 3 level 2 or lower beasts from your deck. They have to be effect monsters, so keep that in mind. So this is, again, why the Ojamas and Melfis work so good together. Because if you're playing a pure Ojama deck, you can't really play Obedience Schooled because they all have to have different names, whatever you summon off of this. So if you summon off 1 or 2 Melfis and then 1 or 2 Ojamas just to sort of get different names in the graveyard, it's really, really nice. And this card right here can turn into like a 1-card OTK, and I can get into that a little bit later. Then we're going on into 3 copies of Unexpected Die. This is generally what I use to just summon off that 1 copy of Melfi Rabby, Or if you just want to get another Ojama into the graveyard, Unexpected Die is really nice because of your field spell, the Ojama Country. You use this as long as you have an Ojama in the graveyard. So you can just use Unexpected Die, link off into Link Spider, get an Ojama set in your graveyard, and then you can go off and use like your Oja match from there. So Unexpected Die works really, really well. Again, just like your Obedience School, to use this, you have to have no monsters on the field, so just keep that in mind. Then we're playing 3 copies of Tri-White. This is the only one that I'm proxying 1 copy of. I'm sorry, I just could not find a 3rd copy, and I have my 3rd one in the mail, but I just really wanted to get this deck profile out as quickly as I could. But Tri-White, super simple, super, super good for this deck. It just lets you special summon 3 level 2 or lower normal monsters from your graveyard. So it's just really super nice. It's like there's no restrictions on this or anything. They just have to be level 2 or lower normal monsters. So with this, kind of like your Obedience School, it can turn into like a 1-card OTK, which is super, super nice. And again, I'll get into that a little bit later. You have your 1 copy of Terraforming for your field spell, 1 Instant Fusion just as another extender, and it can go into your Ojama Knight, and then 1 copy of Monster Reborn. And for our final Melfi card, just because I wanted to include a little bit of a Melfi theme to the deck, because this is mostly Ojama stuff, but I want 1 Melfi Hide and Seek. It protects your beast monsters from destruction by card effects once per turn. That's once each for each beast monster, so that's really cool. And then also it has like a Pot of Avarice-like effect. This is a continuous spell, so once per turn you're able to put 3 level 2 or lower beast monsters, I believe, into the deck, and then you draw a card, which is really, really cool. Yes, target 3 beast monsters in your graveyard, so it doesn't have a level restriction. So it's really, really nice just to be able to sort of cycle back some of your stuff. And then again, this card here will definitely make sure that all 3 of your copies of Oja Magic are going to be live basically at all times. And this card is searchable by your the Melfi of the Forest XZ monster and whatnot. So this card as a 1-of is just really, really nice in here. And that's going to round off for our 50 card main deck. Now let's get on into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we were playing, of course, the 1 copy of Ojama Knight. You guys might have noticed that I dropped the fusion engine in this deck basically entirely. I did keep the instant fusion just because I liked it as an extension for the deck. But I took out the Ojama King as well as the fusion recycling plant and polymerization. Just decided to sort of stay away from that part because the main deck was already large enough. And we can still lock our opponent out of quite a bit of their zones, if not all of their zones. So I really thought that this deck still worked just fine. So we have the 1 copy of Thousand Eyes Restrict just as another extender, as well as another instant fusion target. Then we have 1 Melfi of the Forest. This card can detach to add any Melfi to your hand, so that's why I have the Hide and Seek in the deck. And also it can negate your opponent's monster effects and stop a monster from attacking. As long as when a Melfi gets bounced to the hand, then you target 1 opponent's monster. It can't attack, and it can't activate its effects. So it's just really, really cool to be able to get this on the field and then just make one of your opponent's monsters completely useless. Then we're going on into 2 copies of the Ronin Raccoon. You got to be playing 2 copies of this because it's actually really sweet how these cards can stack. But basically what this card does is that you detach from it and then you special summon a raccoon token, and then that the token has an attack that is equal to the attack of the highest attack monster on the field. And then there's other ways that we can boost this up, and then that is basically how you can OTK with your Obedience School, and I will again get on into that a little bit later. 2 copies of Ghost Trick So Cute Boss. I will actually be doing another video. If you guys would like to see it, let me know down in the comments, but I am working on basically a video, a deck profile on this, or sort of like a recorded duel for Dueling Nexus, where I'll be trying to lock my opponent out of their monster zones with this. So I probably will be bringing back the Ojama King and polymerization and all that. But basically with the So Cute Boss, what you do is you detach material from this, and then you destroy a monster with an attack equal to or lower than the combined attack of all Ghost Tricks on the field. So if you can get both of these on the field, you can detach from both of them and then destroy 2 monsters with 2800 or less attack. Or if you have your Ojama country on the field and everything is switched around, then your opponent's attack points are likely to be a little bit lower, and then these are still going to be at a total of 2,400, and then you can do a little bit more spot removal that way. And then whatever zone that monster was in can't be used. So this is sort of how you can go along with more of the taking your opponent out of certain zones, including their extra monster zone. So you just summon the So Cute boss into your extra monster zone, put the second one somewhere else, and then that is going to allow you to take your opponent out of the other extra monster zone as long as a Ghost Trick is still on the field. And then also, while a different Ghost Trick is on the field, So Cute boss can't be attacked. So if you have both copies, your opponent gets locked out of attacking your Ghost Trick monsters, which is super, super cool. So we'll go on into the links. We have the one relinquished Anima for more spot removal since we have the Thousand Eyes Restrict. That is your only level 1 monster for the deck, so just keep that in mind. These two cards could really be cut if you want more extra deck space, but I just sort of like having them in there for extra spot removal. One copy of Link Spider. This card is just super nice. It's so easy to go into Link 2s with this because you are playing a lot of normal monsters, which can end up being bricks, so you have to be playing the Link Spider. One copy of Mrs. Radiant. So this is what is so good about the 2 copies of your Raccoon. So if you can summon out all 3 of these cards at the same time, you have out Mrs. Radiant, use Ronin Raccoon, and if your opponent has a monster with 3,000 attack, you get a token with 3,000. And then with Mrs. Radiant, it gets boosted up to 35. Then you can get out even another copy of Ronin Raccoon, and then you can detach, get another token, and then that one is going to actually have 1,000 attack higher than your opponent's highest attack monster, which is a really, really cool move to do. And you can even just sort of climb up if you have just these 2 cards. So, and again, you can go just 500 higher than your opponent, and that's going to be just enough to swing over that highest attack monster. Then we have 1 copy of Nightmare Cerberus, 1 Phoenix, and 1 Unicorn. This is where it stops being a budget deck, kind of, and this is where you're going to need to go into more budget options. But these cards are super, super nice in here for your Ojama Magic spell card, so that's why I really like having these in here, just for another option to discard if you don't have any of your main deck discard costs or discard effects. You can just go into one of these guys and then discard, and bam, you're going to be sort of exploding off from there. 1 copy of Ojama Emperor, because he's just a simple Link 3 to go into with this deck, and he works really well with our field spell. And then for our final card, we have 1 copy of Access Code Talker. This card could really be whatever you want it to be, but Access Code Talker works so good with your Ronin Raccoon, because if you can get both of these on the field at the same time, you can get Access Code Talker up to 5,300 attack, and then use your Ronin Raccoon to copy that, and then you have 2 monsters with 5,300 attack. So if you guys cannot afford like the access code and the Nightmare engine, then that's where I would recommend going into a Cross Sheep, a Borreload, and then maybe even a Decode and a Saryuja, just to sort of replace these guys. But anyways, guys, I will really quickly now go on into that Obedience Schooled combo just to show you how powerful this deck can actually be. Alright guys, so now I'm going to show you the 1-card combo that is basically going to allow you to get over whatever your opponent has thrown at you, especially if it is a little bit like late game, or even if your opponent just gets out 1 big boss monster at the end of their turn. This is what's going to help you to thrash over that. So with the Obedience Schooled, we're going to activate that, and then special summon off 3 beast monsters from our deck. Now just keep in mind that they have to be effect monsters, they have to be beasts, and that you are now locked into beast monsters for the rest of the turn, but that's not a problem. So I'm just going to use this Access Code Talker as an example. So say our opponent has a 5,300 attack Access Code Talker across the board from us. We can now take these 2 right here, and we will XZ summon into our Ronin Raccoon, and then detach off of him in order to summon off our token. So I'll just use this Scapegoat token right here. Then the token is going to have the same attack as our opponent's, or as the same attack as the highest attack monster on the field, which would be the access code talker. And then we can just take these two right here. We have to keep in mind that we need 2 earth monsters for this, so just remember that. The Ojamas are light attributes, so they're not earth. So then we're going to go on into our copy of Mrs. Radiant, which is going to boost our monsters up by 500 attack. As long as our opponent doesn't have earth monsters, then we are going to be at an advantage here. So with Mrs. Radiant, we're going to be up to 5,800 attack, and then we can just pound over the access code talker. And then we're also going to have Mrs. Radiant, and then when this card gets destroyed and sent to the graveyard, then we can get an earth monster back from our graveyard to our hand. So we can generally try to set up our graveyard with whatever we would want. So say we have a handful of Ojamas in our hand, then we can just get the red back into our hand, and then from there we can hopefully summon on our own turn and go on into our own access code talker. But anyways, guys, that's going to do it for the deck profile. Let me know in the comments if you guys want to see that video where I am trying to lock my opponent out of their extra monster zones with like So Cute Boss and Ojama King and some of the other cards needed to do that. And anyways, guys, that is going to do it for the deck profile. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll catch you guys next time. Common Collector out.